All right, folks. Welcome to 𝗬𝗏𝗀𝗃𝗏𝗀𝗏TV. I'm joined with Alpha Warrior and Joshua Reid. And folks, Maduro has been captured. This is a huge marker, and it's explosive for the year 2026. Lots of things to come. I've had a lot of people come on and give me their predictions on what's to happen. I've talked to Juan this morning. I was up at 4 this morning covering this, and this is going to lead to 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗀, Russiagate, election 2020, arrests, hopefully, oil. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And all indicators also point to where? China. So I'm going to get Joshua Reid's experience perspective here as well as Alpha's. Guys, thank you so much for joining me.
Nino, it's happening. It's happening, man. Alpha and I have been covering Venezuela since all of this began. And on our shows, we've been talking about how, hey, watch special forces, watch what happens in Venezuela. And Alpha, I believe it was back in November or October, we talked about how the U.S. is just going to go in there and they're going to take out Maduro. They're going to go in, grab Maduro and pull him out. And guess what? He's going to be the star witness. And everything from election integrity to the invasion of our country. And what did you have today? The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, came out and said, Cuba should be very scared.
Oh, yeah. Cuba and Colombia.
Yep. Cuba and Colombia should be very scared.
It was November 29th, and you saw it, Josh. I tagged you in it. Put out a post that laid out this scenario right here. And it was on the heels of us having these conversations where we knew it was going to happen. And then from then to now, what are some of the things that we end up hearing? We hear Patrick Byrne start to come, clean. I won't say clean, but he starts to disclose some of the ties he has to the CIA, even announcing that he was CIA. We find out Rich Grenell is out there in Venezuela. There was a lot of conversations, where people are like, was that bad? Is it good? All these indicators were showing what? It was showing that the U.S. had a plan that was in place and that was going to be filtered out. Now, we didn't know the exact details of how that was going to unfold, but the one indicator we did know was that Maduro was going to surrender himself to the authorities at the last second. Why? Because this is what you do in any major undercover RICO case. Any case, you go back and look at any of the mafia families, any of them. And what you have someone on the inside, whether it's an agent or an informant, and you have them there to the very last second, usually to the danger of the person fulfilling that mission, which in this case, that would be Maduro. And then once okay, we need their testimony. So the risk now outweighs the benefit. Now you create where you pull them out somehow. And in this case, we saw a strategic military strike on the capital of Venezuela.
It was an 8-hour, what they call it, the 8-hour war, right? It just took 8 hours from the beginning to the end.
From beginning to end, it was a couple of hours, but they had Maduro in under 90 minutes.
That's insane. I heard he was running to his steel-cased vault, right, to hide, and they got him before he couldn't shut the door on time, is what I'm hearing. Is that true?
I
don't
it was
know. That close.
Right. Raising Cane was saying, yeah, they were saying that he was running towards his vault and he was tackled before he could get there. I think that's all hoopla, because what we are getting right now is that yesterday about, I would say 4 p.m., news reports started indicating that Nicolas Maduro has caved to the United States of America, that he had contacted the Trump administration and the White House, and that he is willing to surrender. So what we got here is an operation to save Nicolas Maduro's life. And I want people to understand this, that think about a mafia don who is going to take down the whole thing, but he's not really in charge. There's other people around him that are really the ones calling the cards here. Maduro is the star witness. He's the one that connects all the dots. You need to get that man out. And you got to remember, Maduro is a CIA asset. He's been a CIA asset for a very, very, very long time. So what we just witnessed here was an extraction of an asset, of a star witness, so that the opposition couldn't kill him. And because he is a controlled puppet through and through. And this goes very, very far. I mean, we're talking Cuban intelligence, we're talking Colombian intelligence, we're talking Chinese intelligence, we're talking British intelligence. All of this is interconnected into this play. Venezuela was a proxy country, an autonomous zone used for so much criminality, it's unthinkable. Also, there's the context of resources. Now, it's interesting that Maduro was meeting with a Chinese representative to negotiate oil deals just a few hours before.
Yeah, it says right here, Maduro met Chinese envoy hours before U.S. capture from Caracas as Beijing slams operations. So was that like, we're doing this in spite of you type thing, or was he set up? What's your thoughts on this?
I think he was set up. And the reason I say that is because Trump came out today and said that China's going to get the oil. China is going to get an oil deal directly with Venezuela.
So in other words, there was a little backroom deal saying, hey, you set him up, we'll take him out, you get the oil, we'll divide this appropriately.
I'm almost positive. And I know Russia was well aware of this.
was trying to bring in the Chevron deal, right? As we put a $50 million bounty on Maduro's head, 𝗵𝗶𝗀 was trying to broker that deal as well, correct? With Chevron. So I'm wondering what's going to happen with Chevron. What's going to happen with 𝗵𝗶𝗀? Is the deal going to go through now? Is she going to be punished for that? I mean,
Trump said that the U.S. oil companies are going to go in there and they're going to set up infrastructure and give the oil back to the Venezuelan people. And I think that that was really important. Another massive revelation that happened today. Trump said, well, go ahead, Alpha.
Before you go into just to stay on the topic of those things that are happening, here's the other major thing that Maduro, I'm telling you guys, clip this part, clip this part and put in the archives.
All right.
Maduro is going to be the witness that testifies to Venezuela's collaboration in the theft of the 2020.
Yeah, but who's been saying
what
that?
Are we on? Are we YouTube here? Or we
well, we're going both. We're going to go on YouTube first, and then this they'll take highlights for this. But you're right. That's
the theft of something that happened in 2020. He's going to
right. So Biden's what happened. So this
and the invasion of our country. Don't forget about that.
And let's also think about this. Effectively, I believe now Trump has just slam dunked the midterms. I do expect an executive order to come out. I think we all talked about this numerous times, that an executive order will come out where he signs an executive order for fair and safe in-person paper ballot elections. It's game over. So, I mean, here we are now. We're on the precipice of all this unraveling, everything coming out right now. We're probably, I would imagine this year we see more indictments and more arrests, depending on when Maduro comes clean with the Smartmatic and everything that happened in 2020, Russiagate, the entire house of cards is going to fall this year, and it needs to fall this year. Correct, gentlemen?
It does. And not even this year. We're talking literally the next 3 months. Now, we talked about this last week, Alpha and myself, about January 6th coming up, the anniversary just here in 3 days. And that we could potentially see deep state actors arrested prior to that day. Now, why is that important? Because Maduro was literally just arrested today, which means that right now he is being sat down and interrogated in the United States of America. Now, what this tells me is that we know the grand juries that New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida have been working on these cases since at minimum July of last year. Trump just said he's going to New York. He's going to face trial over there. What I think we're about to see is the grand juries wrapping up and more indictments unsealed coming out within the next few days.
I think I'm going to show a picture here. Here he is. And there's another really big picture of him in like a straight jacket with the blue blockers and earmuffs on, right? On the ship on his way to the United States. So he's on his way to New York as of right now, correct?
That's the question I wanted to ask Josh, because he's on the USS Iwo Jima. Yep. Right. I think that the name of that ship is significant in of itself, but why would you not put him on a C-130 and fly them in here right away. Now, one of the things that I've been told is that if you're out there in international waters, the rules of interrogation are a little bit different. And so I was curious if why do the long way of bringing them back on a ship versus just put them on a bird and get them over here?
Well, because of exactly that. He is with law enforcement, DEA, CIA, and he is with U.S. military. So right now, he is going through various different briefs. He's probably already in Puerto Rico and on a jet on his way back, but he is being briefed. He is being interrogated. He is basically, they are getting the information that they need. They're getting it on video. And what I think we're about to see is indictments coming against deep state actors. I mean, we're talking more than 2020 here. We're talking 2020 to 2024, the invasion of our country. Who coordinated that? Who set that up? People like Jake Sullivan, we know, were involved in the infiltration of our country from prisoners in Venezuela. So we have to remember that Maduro is this kind of linchpin that connects.
He's the key. He's the key.
Yeah, he is the key
and unlocks all doors. What I would imagine now, Josh and Alpha, and I'm sure you guys agree, the next big key, Tina Peters.
Well, that could. Yep. Go ahead.
With regards to the elections, absolutely.
Right. So I mean, this is like the first big one, and then after this, it's just going to be a domino effect.
Now, another important part here. What did Trump say today about who's going to take over leadership of Venezuela? He says it's not going to be Machado. He goes, I don't think she has that. Yep, he shot it down. And we know that she was World Economic Forum. She is globalist controlled, British controlled. And he said, nope, it's not going to be her. She's not popular. She doesn't have the ability to go in there and lead. And so if you know her and the one gentleman, Rodriguez, who supports her, that is one of the heads of the Cartel de los Soles. And so basically Trump just rug pulled everybody on Machado, which basically was a big FU to the globalist who thought that, hey, they're going to remove Maduro. We're going to put in Machado. We're going to be golden. Everything's going to be great. Instead, he came about with the same idea that they're going to do in Gaza, is they're going to do an international panel with the U.S. leading it to go in there and run Venezuela for a time being.
So here's what I see happening. Obviously, Venezuela, Colombia next, Cuba, all of South America, basically, all the big narco states, oil-rich states, resources-rich states. Mexico, I think, is going to be another problem. I mean, I think 𝗬𝗂𝗂 right now is probably in fear for her life, scared out of her mind. There's a tug of war happening with her right now between the cartels and Trump. What is she to do?
She just realized, Nino.
Well, hold on. I think the cartels could eliminate her so that if Trump does take her out, which it looks like could happen, they don't want her talking either, right?
Yep.
She just realized that the cartels can't protect her. She just realized the deep state can't protect her. She just saw, unless she knows that Maduro collaborated this extraction with the U.S. Teams, she just saw nobody can stop Trump's special forces from coming into your country and getting you. And she saw the extent. Everybody just saw this wasn't, Iraq, 3 weeks down the pipeline, we find Saddam in a hole. This was
quick.
We hit your Air Force, and in 90 minutes, we knew not only did we know where you were, we tackled you, cuffed you, and had you on a bird on your way to the U.S.
Do you think that they were probably assuming like, Trump will take months, if not years, to get this done with Maduro? Like Iraq, kind of like an Iraq mission. This was zip, zip, boom, boom. He's out. Now we got him. Game on. Like, do you think this stunned everybody?
100%.
100%. And I think there's a message. So JD Vance said something earlier for public service announcement for everybody saying this is illegal. And I went out and wrote a post, and I want to just say this quote that I put out there. This is a message to the deep state, to the globalists, to the transnational criminal organizations that was just sent by the Trump administration. You can't run. You can't hide. Your status means nothing to us. We will hunt you down and we will bring you to justice. No military in the world can protect you. That is the message that was just sent. The Trump administration just did a 90-minute mission to go and arrest the president of a foreign country on unsealed indictments. That is a message to any country out there taking part in criminality, especially the parts of transnational criminal organizations. This actually, what just happened is so damn important to what we're about to witness and see. Now, going into all of this, when we start to understand the key points of Maduro, oh my goodness. I mean, this is 10 years of criminality that are about to be exposed. I mean, there is panic in DC. There's panic in the UK.
I mean, even going back as far as 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧, right?
Oh, yeah.
The whole thing, yeah. Because that's when Smartmatic, that's when all that software, Hammer, everything originated, right? With 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, so this is going to go way back. Oof. Do you feel that this will lead to, you're saying that this is going to lead to arrests, not out into the fall of 2026, but
no,
quite rapidly soon.
Quite rapidly. And so here's my thoughts on that, because number one is a message was just sent to the deep state. It has begun, right? To everybody that was a player in this, it has begun. We don't care what your status is. If you're president of a foreign country, we're coming for you. So what we have to look at right now is that Alpha and I have been saying this from the get-go. Once it happens in Venezuela, that is the signifier. That is the mark. It has begun. From there, this is what I want people to understand. You don't have very long. Right now, we just got Maduro. You literally have a week or two that you have to act, that you have to go out there and you have to start arresting the deep state, and you have to start uprooting that entire network. So what this signifies to me is that within 12 months, the Trump administration, they devised a plan, and within that plan, they had executed every part that they were looking at that needed to be set in the foundation to go out there and do the mass arrest that we've been waiting for, to go out there. The grand jury.
So you really do feel the mass arrests are going to happen right now?
Not that mass. Okay, so when I say mass arrest, what do I mean by that? More unsealed indictments. My thoughts are that the grand juries had came out and said, hey, here's your indictments. Florida grand jury, New York grand jury that we haven't even heard of have came out and said, here's your indictments. Let the unseals begin. Maduro was the first. And if you go and read one specific quote, the first indictment unseal will trigger a mass population awakening. The first arrest will verify action and confirm future direction. They will fight, but you are ready. So think about this. You just arrested Maduro. So his Secretary of Defense, who's a Rodriguez, right? Nothing against you, Nino, but is a Rodriguez, one of the head members of the Cartel de los Soles, right? They're going to initiate their sleeper cells in the United States now.
Yes,
they're going to kick it off.
I wanted to get that's what I wanted to hit on next is
so you got to move fast.
And backlash.
Yeah, so you got to move fast.
And here's this is one of the reasons that we knew that this was coming, that this move on Venezuela and Maduro was coming very fast, and it was because who is the General Flynn of the deep state? John Brennan. And what did we see get released in the news? Not maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, his attorneys came out and said, "Hey, looks like we want to change jurisdictions, we want to change courts. It looks like there's an indictment coming down my way." And so, what did that tell the deep state? They're coming after your strategic player. This is the guy that you've utilized for all these prior things. Whether we go back to 9/11 or whatever the case may be, this is it.
So are we waiting on a confession from Maduro? I mean, once we bring him in, we get him, we interrogate him, get a confession, or we don't even need any of that?
We already got it. It. So remember the first phone call with Trump and Maduro a few weeks ago? Remember Trump came out and said, oh, it was a good phone call, but he doesn't want to listen to us all this. But Maduro came out and said, no, we talked about a lot of different things. We negotiated. It was a really good and productive call. That was the first line for this part. That was the first indication all of this was about to happen. Then we get the indication yesterday that Maduro had contacted them and said, hey, I'm ready. Let's rock and roll. Let's do this. And so I think Maduro was afraid for his life. He is a disposable variable in all of this. And it was only a matter of time. And I think the matter of time was the indictments. The indictments are the big key, because if you start taking out John Brennan, Barack Obama, James Clapper, these types of people, Maduro knows that his time is limited, and then all the people above that, the puppet masters, they have to start eliminating the board. They have to start taking out everybody who's involved in this criminality that can point back to them. And Maduro is one of those players. So I think that this was planned, that Maduro has already most likely given his testimony to grand juries, and this was extracting him, putting him.
So you don't think there was really? You don't think there was a fight, really? I mean, obviously we bombed some areas there, but we did that to get in undercover. He basically gave up. He surrendered, is what you're saying? Is what you think?
I think what the boots on the ground actually was to Josh's point, when Maduro was giving up the intel, he was giving up locations. He was giving up places. Hey, this is where you're going to find stuff on what happened in 2020. This is where you're going to find stuff on what's going on with this human trafficking. This is where you're going to find stuff. These are all the different locations where you're going to find these things. Now,
but he was given chances to go off into another country and millions of dollars and retire. He was given ultimatums like, hey, take off now. You won't be dealt with.
But that was
he didn't take any of it.
Well, because that was just the optics. You got to remember, if hindsight's always 20/20. So when you look back, when these things unfold at the surface level, what the news reports, who's that for? It's not for this audience. It's not for us. We look deeper than the headlines, but the vast majority of the public reads off of at the surface level headlines. So people are seeing, hey, there's this going back and forth. Trump goes and pardons. What's his name?
Rodriguez from Honduras.
Honduras. There you go. He pardons a guy from Honduras. Patrick Byrne comes out. When you look back, what does all that tell you? Trump couldn't come out at the surface level and say, hey, Nicolas Maduro's telling everything we need to know. He's putting it out there. Why? He'd be done. His own people would take him out at that point because they know they're done. So what is, and at the same time, Maduro's telling Trump, hey, how do I know? How do I know that you can give me everything you're promising? So then Trump says, look at this. You know what's his name out of Honduras? Check this out. I'm going to give him a pardon. So I got the power to wield the things that I'm going to wield. Boom, the pardon unfolds. Next, now you got to signal to the deep state that Maduro's talking to us. How do you do that? Patrick Byrne. Patrick Byrne comes forward and says, hey, I did this. This is what's going on in Venezuela. The deep state knows, okay, they're going to stuff that they can only be talking about if Maduro's talking. And so this was the way you communicated everything that was unfolding to all the other players on the chessboard without putting it out there. So
see, Rubio said Maduro had his chance, and Juan told me this as well when I was doing a broadcast with Juan. He said, look, we've given Maduro many chances. He did not take them. He had a chance for peace and go live somewhere else. He could have left to a different country. Few other countries would have accepted him, but he chose to stay and fight. He wanted to play big boy is what Marco Rubio is saying.
So yes, and this is optics, and I think what's being said here is that if Maduro had taken Trump's original deal and extradited himself to Qatar or somewhere else, he would have been killed. He would have been taken out. This is the same.
So it was really no deal at all,
right? Well, here's the thing: is there's people above Maduro that control the chessboard, and that we're talking about British intelligence here. We're talking about high-level Chinese intelligence. We're talking about deep state actors that controlled Maduro, okay? So a big part of this is resources. We're moving into a multipolar world. The control of resources is paramount. This is one thing that Alpha, myself, and you, Nino, have all been talking about. He who controls the resources is going to control the future. This is the largest oil deposit on the freaking planet. So this is huge to control. And there is a lot of people trying to control it. A lot of these ghost vessels that were leaving Venezuela with oil, many of us think that they were headed to China. They're headed to China. Very few were actually headed to China. Guess where they were headed? Europe. They were headed to Europe. Why? Because this is one of the ways that Europe was pulling in oil under the shadows. You got to remember, you have sanctions on Russia. You have sanctions on Iran. You have sanctions on Venezuela. Europe has one pathway to buy the majority of their oil, the United States of America. Well, what just came out with the national security strategy with Donald Trump focusing on the Western Hemisphere, basically telling the EU to go F themselves? The Europe does not want to do business with the United States of America. They want to collapse and crush the United States of America, remove them and control their resources and assets. And the plan they were going to do that was through China. That's why China allowed and paid for all of the Middle Eastern and African and Chinese military-age males to flow into Venezuela. It was them who flew them in there, who sailed them in there. Then they came through the Darien Gap up to our country. This was a plot to destroy the United States of America.
Do you think, I just had 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 on again today, who says he gets his briefings from very high-level officials in the government, whatever. Do you believe that we could be forming super states right now? Russia taking Europe, America taking South America, China taking the Asiatic countries. Do you think that there could be a chance that we're creating a 3-level or a 3 super states, Asia, America, and Russia?
Sovereign
Do you think that's a possibility?
I don't think in the terms of taking over the
slicing the pie. I mean, the new world order has been defeated. Now we're kind of slicing the pie in 3 major super states, resources, the whole thing. Do you think that's a possibility? Do you think that's the bigger picture here? Because it sure seems like it to me. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, all indicators kind of point to that. I mean, it looks like we are taking over South America, man. Fuck. I mean, Colombia's next, Cuba's next. Shit. It looks like it to me. Mexico.
So I've talked at length about this when you talk about the formation of the multipolar world. One of the things I said in January of 2025 was that the Trump administration is not focused on Europe anymore. Europe, they're going to be pulling out of NATO. They're not going to fund Europe. The reason being is because if there's ever some type of kinetic engagement between the U.S. and China, if war ever breaks out between the U.S. and China, there's only one other country that matters. One other country on this planet that matters. It doesn't matter if all of the Western nations, all of Europe, all of Australia, even all of South America, Canada, the United States went against China. If China was allied with Russia, there's a probability that you're going to lose. Here's the thing. If the United States and Russia were in an alliance together, China will never fight in the first place. And see, that is the scenario and the situation that they want to create, because no other superpower even compares to the superiority of those 3 countries.
So in other words, we're going to divide the pie in 3 pieces. That makes the most sense.
Not a geopolitical pie, but think about it in the context of a Trump's national security strategy. I think that is the best alignment of where the world is heading right now. That, hey, we're going to focus on the Western Hemisphere. We're going to get our shit in order down here. We're going to help these countries grow and be prosperous. We're going to consolidate the resources, because yes, that is happening. And China is going to do the same thing. Russia is going to do the same thing. This is why Russia is not going to give up the Donbass region in Ukraine. And this is why Putin is going to go take out Odessa. Because if he takes out Odessa, Ukraine's done economically. That is the only entryway into the Black Sea. The Black Sea is paramount for trade within all of Eastern Europe and throughout Europe. That's how all the grain and the oil comes in. So if Russia controls Odessa, it's over for Europe. They have to get on their knees and suck the Putin's big, what, okay? So this is what Putin's going to do next. And he's waiting until spring to move on Odessa. So we have Putin right there. He's going to control Eastern Europe, which is grain and oil and massive amounts of resources. You have China, which doesn't have resources in the territory and the land. So what are they doing? They're flexing their muscles after $11.1 billion arms deal with Taiwan from the United States. Trump basically told China, fuck around and find out. And China does what? They put in a military embargo through exercises around Taiwan. They put export restrictions on silver almost immediately. But listen, I'm not worried about Taiwan. Okay, go ahead.
To that point, I had told Josh, I go, hey, we make this move on Venezuela, and then China makes this move on silver. I go, at that point, now it's incumbent. Trump's either they called his bluff, or he's got to move on Venezuela. And within a few days, here we are.
That's right, because of the silver deal, right?
Yep. Now here's the important part. So China doesn't have an Asia region that has massive amounts of rich metals and oil and gas. Energy is primarily the biggest part. But what did Trump say today? The Venezuelan oil will go to China.
Giving them their part, their portion.
Giving them their portion, giving them their cut in the pie. As in, he's formulating a multipolar world.
In other words, diverting from war, basically.
Diverting from war, creating a multipolar world framework to where, you got to remember what the globalists wanted in its entirety. The globalists wanted the entire world. But when we say world, what we really talk about? Resources. We're talking about energy, rare earth minerals and metals. We're talking about supply routes and transit routes, right? We're talking about the control over people.
So this is the aftermath of the destruction of the New World Order, basically globalism. This is just a better deal. The three super states now controlling the 3 states, controlling all the resources is the
game, set, match, checkmate.
The solution, the remedy to the New World Order, right? Although it seems like it also looks like that could be the trajectory to a one world order, but it's not. It's basically kicking the can down the road, and I guess you could look at it that way.
Well, it's the way you would do any war that's out there. You know, what do you do first?
It's like the 3 baddest dudes on the block getting a little piece of their, you know, the pimps and hoes. Like, hey, I run this corner, you run that corner, you run that corner. Let's all get along and watch your 6.
Right. But now if you have all 3 of them controlling global resources, any transnational criminal organization that comes in to try to undermine them, guess what happens?
They're done.
They get extracted like Nicolas Maduro and thrown in prison.
And that's
so this is a new order.
It is.
But we knew that this was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Like
so it's not. Hold on, let me just say one more thing. I'm sorry, folks, but it's not necessarily like Russia's going to come in and say, okay, Poland is now Russia. Finland's now Russia. This is Russia. We're going to name it Russia. None of that. It's just about controlling the resources for those regions.
It's just each one of them's controlling their cell block. That's all it comes down to.
That's what it is.
It's not necessarily controlling. It's protecting, right? It's that we're going to ensure.
Well, you got to throw some protection in there, of course.
Yeah, right. We're going to ensure that the Western Hemisphere is taken care of, that no dictator is going to undermine his people and then concentrate the money from the resale of their resources. You know, Trump is replicating what's really happening in the United States of America. $124 trillion worth of natural resources has been unlocked. And what's he doing? He's throwing the profits of all of these in a sovereign wealth fund and giving dividends checks to the American people. This is going to be, we talked about this, Alpha, this is going to be the model being given to the world. And then, so Maduro is the first one. Guess who's next? Do you think that anybody think
Cuba
it's odd?
or Colombia, right?
No. Does anybody think it's odd that the Netanyahu was at Mar-a-Lago just a few days ago, and the next day you have a color revolution, really Operation Gladio, rising up in the streets of Iran the next day, of which is still going on. Trump puts out yesterday that if Iran kills any protesters, be assured we are locked and loaded and ready to go, and we will. Why? You go back a year ago, Alpha, we were talking about this. I said that there's a color revolution. There's a coup against Khamenei in Iran underway. Trump and Netanyahu have been planning this for a minimum of 2 years. And I've laid this out for my audience. I was on with Clayton Morris on Redacted talking about this back in March of 2025, that they've been planning on taking out Khamenei for a long time. Now, what happened is in March and April and May, during the Iran-Israel conflict, Israel jumped the gun. Israel got too excited. They went out there and they shot their wad off, and Trump had to intervene and end that right then and there. The color revolution wasn't in full effect, but now it is. And what we're seeing is the overthrow of the Iranian dictatorship. Iran's next. I'm telling you, quote me on that one. Iran is next.
I mean, I guess they'll handle it every single place the way they just handled Venezuela, right? The same way. Iran, Venezuela, Colombia will be next, and Cuba will be handled the same way.
Here's some of the markers that you could look for, because no one's changed. If you look historically, nobody changes the playbook of how war goes. Before you go into war, what are some of the first moves militarily that you make? You just
cut off the resources, strangle them.
You cut off the financial resource, then you cut off the actual resources they need. At that point, now you weaken them. Now you make their move to take down their command and control. After you take out their command and control, you implement a new temporary form of control. And then that's what leads to everything else. So what did we see when Trump took office against the deep state? went after USAID, went after the National Endowment Fund, exposed the NGOs, did all this stuff through Doge. What was that? He was taking out the surface level of how they do money laundering. So everybody, even normies, could be like, hey, what? Now, and then after that, what did he do? Then he specifically, and this is after he secured our borders, obviously, but then what did he do next? Cartels, they're now terrorists. Aragua, terrorists. He started labeling their foot soldiers, right? Who they were. Why? Because he was moving closer and closer to this part. And what was this part that just happened last night or this morning? Taking down the command and control of one of the sectors that the deep state has. And that's why Josh is correct. The next, you're going to see the same strategic thing happen in Iran. And with regards to Iran, what did we see early on? We already seen the taking down of their quote unquote nuclear producing facilities, right? Because that's one of the ways that they control it. We've seen them also take down the Houthis. So they've been in that static pattern where the next thing to do is take down the command and control. And what are they doing? They're doing a controlled color revolution within Iran. And so once you control, you control the Western Hemisphere, which is what Trump's doing now. You control the Middle East, which is what Putin and Bibi and all of them are going to be doing over there. Then the next thing is you got that deep state that's left in China. And that's the collaboration of all those forces coming together. It's the genie is out of the bottle with regards to the war on the deep state now. All we can do is move forward through it. There's no pause.
Right. So it's got to be pop, 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 pop. Now it's got to happen really fast. Now that we've made this initial move, ousted Maduro, now the rest has to fall like dominoes, and it's got to quicken up the pace. It's got to happen faster now.
And why do we know that it's going to be done fast? Because what general is the one that orchestrated this plan, Josh?
Raising Dan Cain.
Raising Dan Cain. And everybody said taking down ISIS would take years.
Yep.
Years.
Within 6 months, absolutely eliminated the ISIS caliphate. Now, within 12 months, he just eliminated a massive criminal cartel transnational organization that was basically the mercenaries and foot soldiers for the globalists.
So I'm guessing we could see Colombia and Cuba probably in the next couple months. I mean, it's going to have to be pretty fast, right? And Juan talks about a Cuban Missile style type crisis that could. Do you guys still feel there's a nuclear rogue sub in the region, or do you think we wouldn't have even done what we would have never done what we did if that would have been a threat? That threat is now neutralized, or do you still feel there's a possibility of a rogue Russian nuclear threat in that region?
I think the threat still exists. I think we're in the position to either stop it or minimize it if they go that route.
They wouldn't have ran this operation.
I don't think they would have ran.
It was severe.
Yeah, I don't think they would have ran it.
And on that same part, with knowing that the arrest of Nicolas Maduro would bring about the activation of sleeper cells in the United States of America, they would have never have done it if they knew they couldn't control it. They would have never have done it.
So the ICE arrests, the raids, the whole thing, they took down the power heads, the organizers, the big guys, the most violent MS-13 criminal cartel heads to make sure we get ahead of the ball. So when we do take down Maduro, like what we just did, that there would be no backlash severe enough to where there would be large-scale mass events, casualties, right? So in other words, terrorist events. So in other words, where we're at right now was we did all the preliminary stuff with the ICE raids and going into the Democratic hellholes, taking down the lead organizers and all that, so we could do what we did right now, and the effects would be more neutralized, right? Or more.
One of the greatest lies ever told is that once a terrorist cell leaves and goes into whatever country, we'll say the US, that they sever communication and they're just going to follow. The movies have created this ideology that they sever communication, and once that green light's there, they're going to follow through with their orders no matter what. It's the greatest lie ever told regarding terrorists. That communication's never severed. That lie was created so that people think, well, once you take out that terrorist cell, there's never the expectation to trace it back, because you can't, because they were operating independently. What you saw this morning, a few hours ago, was the taking down of the other side that gives the orders, the updates, and the intelligence to those terror cells that are operating in
the brain,
the brain, the command and control. Why is that important? Because when the military went in there and took down these structures and captured these people that are there, We now have the roll call sheets of all these terrorist units. We now know how they communicate. We know what frequencies they're on, what encryptions they're using. Their entire logistical operation from the command and control side is now in the control of the U.S.
I was told that, the Ghost even said this, that when they were invading under Biden, they were being tracked and traced then. I mean, even with their cell phones, all the phones they were given, the credit cards, everything was being tracked and traced for such a time as now.
Right. And also when Tom Homan's team came in, when they were going from, remember Tom Homan was going on the news and he was going state to state and he was kind of going through the cities and he'd have ICE go out there and take out some low-hanging fruit. This was intelligence gathering. They were going out there and they were gathering intelligence on who was who and what was what. When you go out there and you start taking the low-hanging fruit in a community, people start moving, people start talking. If you have a sleeper cell within that arena, they're going to go out there, they're going to pack up, and they're going to go to a next safe house. And this is exactly what they were watching with SIGINT, with 𝗬𝗏. And so they know the movements of these people, where they're at, and what they were doing. Another key to all of this is the reason why Iran's color revolution started exactly right before this is because Iran's Hezbollah Unit 910 is one of the terrorist organizations that you have to watch out for to get activated during this time frame. We had how many terrorist attacks by radical Islam over the last few months? Okay, so if we went in there and took out Maduro, nothing was happening with Iran, they would have activated their terrorist cells. But guess what happened? We gave Iran another problem to deal with. Trump came out and gave them a direct threat saying, hey, if you start killing your own people, we're going to come after you. We're locked and loaded and ready to go. That was a warning to 𝗀𝗃 saying that, hey, if you come after us, if you retaliate against what we're about to do, you're done. We are going to bomb the living shit out.
So do you think there is still going to be a necessary scary event or event that happens in America? Or do you think that's been nullified? It's done.
I don't think it's been nullified, but I think their ability to be successful in it has taken a major
to get the desired results they want. It won't happen. Actually, it'll benefit us more, even if they do it.
Because the
demolition.
Yeah, because the advancements Trump and them are going to make, especially if you're someone that follows the boards, they're not going to do it without minimizing or controlling the risk to everybody else. So anytime they finally follow through with these, we know that they've come to the conclusion at that point that percentage-wise, it's going to be successful, and that, you know, the chances of something going sideways are going to be minimal. And I think that we can, they haven't betrayed that. So why would they betray that in the future? So I think we're solid when it comes to that. I don't think the threat's been eliminated, but I think their ability to be successful in that threat has taken a major hit.
All right, fellas, that's good today. I'm going to put this up on 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗏 and YouTube at the same time. So let me get that up. You guys, will you please stay with me just for a moment?